Josh, Telegraph now and the BBC found guilty of significant editorial failings, which, it has to be said, is the premise on which this entire channel was founded. But on the specific occasion, something you've been quite closely associated with.
Yeah, absolutely. So the headline is BBC caused significant distress to the Jewish community with false anti-Muslim claims. What happened was last year, November 29th was the first day of Hanukkah. There were these Jewish teenagers and kids. They were driving around and celebrating and handing out donuts, which is a Jewish ritual you do in Hanukkah, around Oxford Street. And they were accosted by a bunch of men who started Zeke-heiling them, spitting at them, throwing stuff at them on this bus. These teenagers sort of retreated back onto this bus. And when the BBC reported it on the news, they said that you could hear anti-Muslim slurs coming from the bus, because there was this video footage shot on the bus where you see these guys attacking these teenagers.
Right.
Anyone Jewish instantly went, wait a minute, that's not an anti-Muslim slur. They're actually speaking Hebrew, and they were actually saying, quick, get out of here. In Hebrew, call someone, it's urgent, is what they were saying in Hebrew. Right. You could hear, like, Hebrew letters and stuff like that.
And was it? Did it sound like a slur in English? Or
yeah,
did
so it sounded,
like
or half of it sounded. Someone like...
Yeah.
So immediately, Jewish community said, that's not... Then they're not saying anything. They're speaking Hebrew. You can also hear them speaking Hebrew before.
Right.
So they instantly contacted the BBC. And this is where... Look, people make mistakes, that's fine. But the fact that the BBC just kept on doubling down for weeks and weeks, it's taken like nearly a year now to sort this out. The Board of Deputies who represent Jews in this country had to hire in two leading world audio experts who got this audio footage, cleaned it up, showed it. There's this amazing footage out where you see it and you can hear very clearly what it says. Present it to them. They were like, no, this is... And they wouldn't even... It took them 2 months to go, well, actually, maybe there is some other evidence put online. So this finally went to Ofcom, and Ofcom has now come back and said, yes, they basically were out of order, and it's great, but the fact it's taken so long.
Yeah. I do remember the footage. I remember it very clearly, and it was horrifying. It was really, quite scary from the footage from inside the bus.
It is terrifying, and to see the vitriol that they're being attacked. So not only was this like victim blaming blaming these Jewish kids for being attacked, basically, then it's just doubled down through the time by the BBC.
I don't know if you remember this or whether it is even relevant, but was it around the same time there had been some Palestinian protests going on, and there was some quite disturbing footage of...
Well, that was in the months before from Gaza.
With police, I mean, it's not just the police are systemically woke, and of course part of being woke is being anti-Semitic because, they tie it in with being, anti-Zionist or whatever.
Yeah.
But the police, the Met Police under Sadiq Khan were almost escorting Muslim gangs, extremists who are shouting all kinds of abuse, hurling eggs.
We're going to find some Jewish blood, and we're going to do all this stuff.
And they're saying they're going to kill their dogs and all this kind of thing.
And then he's just standing there.
And then going to Golders Green and literally driving around, screaming that they were going to rape children, they were going to rape women, and also with a big ad van displaying horrible messages.
And these are separate incidents. And by the way, this one that happened in Oxford Street, the police have investigated. There's so much CCTV footage of how they've somehow not identified these people. There's very clear images of exactly who they are, about 4 or 5 of these guys.
Because they're hot on hate crimes as a rule. But
only certain categories of people are seen as perpetual victims, and other categories of people can't ever be seen as victims. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And the fact that the BBC translators themselves, disagreed over what was said. Some of them, said that this isn't an Islamophobic slur. That shows that the BBC has got serious systemic failings to answer for.
Well, it's a satisfactory conclusion eventually, but it took too long.